Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the McGonagall Boxing Podcast. Let's get straight down to it, shall we? So obviously we are 3 days away now from the huge heavyweight fight, Wilder Fury 3. How's it going to go down? Now, obviously I'm a massive Tyson Fury fan, but I wouldn't be doing my job on the podcast if I was completely biased. So we have to kind of balance it out with two views. But I'm going to go straight head first and say I think Fury will win this fight. I think it's going to be very, very challenging though. I think it's going to be a far tougher fight than the second fight early on. I think what's going to happen is credit Wilder, he could have shirked this fight, he could have backed out, because I mean, let's be honest, the second fight was a beatdown, but he didn't. He's called this fight, he's gone away, he's got a new trainer, he looks like he's stayed off social media a lot, he's got focused. And I do believe he will try and target the body. I think that's Malik Scott. He seems to be a better coach than he was boxer, to be honest with you. Well, he's speaking a lot of sense. He's saying, set the right hand up, and use the jab, which is absolutely spot on. That's what he should have been doing from the word get-go. But rather than the second fight, very predictable, just trying to throw the right hand. He became greedy on his power, as Adam Booth used to say, and still does. So I think it's a good strategy for Wilder to target the body, and that's going to slow Fury down and obviously make him susceptible to then the overhand right, because he'd be covering the body. But I just think that Wilder, as soon as he gets hit and backed up, will revert to type. It's very hard. I know he's had 17, 16 months of training with Malik Scott, after probably having a 2-month rest after, let's be honest, getting battered in the second fight. But I'm not sure if that's enough against a lifetime of boxing skills that Fury's got. So like I say, I think the early rounds you'll start implementing what's been taught, but as soon as he gets hit, and Fury, as I'm confident he will still be there, weathering the storm, I think he's going to revert back to type. And that's when I think Fury will take over. I do think he has to be careful though, Fury. I think, the body shots will be an issue for him because he hasn't seen him in the last two fights. I also think Wilder will have more of a jab. So I think he's got to be careful of that. I think it's a case of, making sure he's switched on, making sure that he respects Wilder and the different looks that Wilder was probably going to give him moving forward. But ultimately, I think Fury's such a great tactician. He can adapt. He's not like Joshua, who's quite stiff and robotic and one-styled. Fury's been fighting since he's a little baby boy. He knows fighting. He can adapt. He can fight in many styles, as seen in the last fight. Is it a worry that he seems to be giving his game plan away? I'm not sure, because I'm not sure if Wilder can do anything about it. I don't think 16 months is enough time to work on the left-hand side of his body, which is obviously far weaker than his right-hand side. And I'm not sure he's learned, how to fight on the back foot. That's what they should be working on, being backed up, improving his defensive skills, rather than going gung-ho on his what he's already good at. He should be working on his weaknesses. I don't think they've done enough of that. So I think, like I say, Fury will have an uncomfortable first couple of rounds, but I think he'll survive that. I think it will be tough, but I think he'll start slowly timing Wilder, backing him up, and I expect Fury to take over the fight from about round 5. But he's got to be careful. He's got to be very careful. I mean, Wilder can easily knock him out with a body shot, with overhand right, if he sets up right. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wilder wins the fight, but my heart says 80-20 Fury. And I just think what Fury will do, he's got so much confidence, hopefully not overconfidence, but he knows how to fight Wilder now. Wilder's like Mike Tyson, can't fight on the back foot. And I don't think 16 months is enough time. I think Fury will manhandle him, close him, suffocate him. He won't be able to get off, because Wilder needs distance of them long levers to get off, to throw that right hand. He needs to step back and snap and get his whole tool into it, his whole extension. And when you're suffocated, he's in big trouble. He can't fight ugly in the inside. He'll be manhandled, he'll be bullied. And I think Fury will lean on him, exhaust him, and I think it'll pummel him, and I think it will be over again within 8 rounds. So, like I say, I think the first couple of rounds when Fury's judging the distance, and he's seen new looks, he's probably seen a jab, he's seen body shots, he'll be uncomfortable. I think what will happen, he'll start riding them, walking Wilder down. He'll start very slowly but surely losing confidence and faith. He'll revert back to type, and I think Fury gets him out of there around 8. Again, probably being stopped on the ropes. Fury hasn't got one punch power, but he's got enough power, 19.5 stone, 6'9", and he's got bad intentions now, with Sugar Hall in his training, the Kronk's gym mentality. I think he's going to do Wilder damage, and I think, like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if Fury's marked up at the end of the fight, but I think he gets him out of there. And I go against my first 2 predictions where I thought Wilder would certainly win because of the inactivity in the first fight. Second fight, I thought it was 50-50. This fight, I think it's Fury 80-20. But listen, it's a live fight. Wilder can win this fight, no question. If Fury needs to be switched on for every second, he needs to be reading Wilder, and he needs to be giving Wilder different looks as well. He can't just walk forward in straight lines because he'll get caught like Dominic Brazil got caught. So he has to be smart. He has to move off in angles. He can do that. He can do exactly what Usyk did. He's a freak of nature, Fury, with his footwork and head movement. And I think he'll come at Wilder with different angles, different punches. I think Fury needs to go to the body as well. Everyone's talking about Wilder going to the body. Fury should be going to the body. And don't be surprised if he doesn't, beating them weak legs up. He's still got very skinny legs, Wilder. So that's the key. I think Fury needs to be aggressive as well. I like his mentality. Beat Wilder's body up. He's not as strong. His core's not as strong as Fury's. And again, mix it up and just close the distance and pummel him on the ropes like he did last time. And I think that will happen. I think it will be competitive. It will be more competitive than his last fight for sure. I think Wilder's got a point to prove, but ultimately so has Fury. And I think he's seen Joshua lose. And I know there's been unrest with that, as he's taking his eye off the ball now, but I think that's probably spurred him on now. He doesn't like Wilder. He doesn't like the fact Wilder's used the excuses that he has, and I think he wants to prove a point in this fight. And people say, he's been unrest in his camp with his baby daughter, unfortunately falling ill, and he had a month off camp. Yeah, but don't forget, he's been training almost 18 months himself for this. On off, he got postponed in July. He had a 4-week camp. All right, he had 3 weeks off, but he's been back another 3 weeks now. He's not like he's just had a 3-week camp. He's been on off, and he's been training regularly with Sugar Hall and his dad, and he's been studying Wilder. He's had Wilder in his sights, and of course he had Joshua for maybe a month or 2, but then he's been back on Wilder. He's been back on Wilder since May, so he's had plenty of time. I think that won't be an issue. Ring rust, I think, will be both a factor for both. That's what I'm saying. Early on, I think it'll be tentative, and I think that's when Wilder will be most dangerous. But I think Fury will survive the uncomfortable moments, and he'll figure Wilder out, figure his distance, the timing, and then he's going to get to work. So it's a factor for Wilder as well. People forget that so long as he's been out in the ring, how's that going to affect him at 36? All these questions, Generally, you don't get better. You get worse with inactivity and age. That's just a fact. So I just think Malik Scott talks a very good game. I think he's right in what he's saying. I just don't think it's reality. And I think early on it might be, but towards the end it will revert back to type. And like Malik Scott did as a fighter, ultimately they crumble. And I mean that respectfully, but facts are facts. And I think Wilder deserves respect. Fury needs to be 100%, but ultimately he's going to back him up and take him out of there. And it's going to be bring on Usyk, I think, because I think Usyk will beat Joshua in a rematch, and then it's the ultimate fight, isn't it, the unification. And then I'd like to see Wilder Joshua. That would be a fantastic fight. But that's where my money is. I'm not saying Wilder can't win. With that right hand, if he times it, he can knock anyone out. I just don't think it's gonna knock Fury out. I think Fury's too smart, too clever, too elusive. As long as he's switched on, as long as he's focused, as long as he doesn't play silly games, which sometimes Fury can do, but against the elite, he's normally very switched on, and I think he'll do the same. So I'm going for a round 7, round 8 KO, TKO, Tyson Fury, and then it's bring on Usyk. And as for Wilder, where does he go from here? Well, for me, it's not over for him. He can still fight Dillian White. He can still fight if Dillian White doesn't go straight for his mandatory, or he can fight Joshua. That's still a huge stadium fight. Or he can rebuild and go down the WBO route, or the WBA regular route. So it's not over for Wilder, but I just think it will be a long road back, especially if he gets stopped, which I think he will do. But if it goes to points, then it's the American Vegas judges. And I hope there's no robbery. I really hope there's no robbery in terms of giving the decision to the hometown fighter. But you never know. That's the problem. But I think Fury, I'm confident, will win it so decisively, if it does go to points, that they can't help but not rob him. So be careful, the Vegas judges. I never trust them, but I think my money will still be on Fury winning a points decision, because it'll be so one-sided. Even if the judges probably give it a split decision, they'll have to give it to him overall. But be careful of that. Be careful of the right hand, be careful of the judges, but ultimately Fury's got to go out there aggressive. I think he is looking to stop Wilder. He's not looking to take it to the judges. Doesn't trust the judges. That doesn't mean he's going to be reckless. He's going to be calculated. He's going to pull it on Wilder. I don't think Wilder's going to be able to take 12 rounds of a bombard on the back foot. There we go. Can't wait though, guys. It's going to be, as always, entertaining, explosive. Tune in Saturday night. Let's go.